Good morning. I'd like to share with you an Easter meditation. A long time ago, on that very first Easter, there was a collection of individuals who were huddled in a room. They were devastated. They were heartbroken. They had seen the Master that they had followed for 3 years and watched his ministry, watched his miracles, heard the life-giving words that he had shared. But they'd also watched him be tortured, crucified, and died. They watched him be buried in a tomb. And now they were devastated. It was hard to have hope at this point. They could cling to the words that he had said, that he would rise again on the third day. And yet, although some had a lot of hope, some may have not had much. Like a small flickering flame on the darkest night, there may have been very little hope in some of those hearts. And yet when Jesus rose from the dead, when he appeared to all of those in that room, that small flickering flame of hope was fanned into a giant flame, engulfing those lives so that they would live selflessly for Jesus from that point on. That they would carry the message of the life-changing truth of Jesus Christ. They would carry the truth of his word and the testimony of their own changed lives into a world that needed hope so badly. And that's true of us today. We all need hope. The world needs hope, and the source of that hope is Jesus Christ. The message that went out from that first Easter and carries on throughout the day is just as relevant today as it was on that first Easter morning. Countless millions of lives have been changed because they've trusted in the very Son of God, who gave his life for us and rose again and is alive forevermore. Perhaps you're having trouble keeping hope during these times, but look up, trust him, because the hope is there. The empty tomb is the sign that there is hope. Jesus is alive, and that truth should bring comfort and peace and hope to you today. I'd like to share with you a song that gives a perspective of one of the disciples on that first Easter morning. The gates and doors were barred, all the windows fastened down. I spent the night in sleeplessness and rose at every sound. Half in hopeless sorrow and half in fear the day would find the soldiers breaking through to drag us all home. And just before the sunrise, I heard something at the wall. The gate began to rattle and a voice began to call. I hurried to the window and looked down into the street, expecting swords and torches and the sound of soldiers' feet. There was no one there but Mary, so I went down to let her in. John stood there beside me as she told us where she'd been. She said they've moved him in the night and none of us knows where. The stone's been rolled away, now his body isn't there. We both ran toward the garden, and then John ran on ahead. We found the stone and the empty tomb, just the way that Mary said. But the winding sheet they'd wrapped him in was just an empty shell. And how or why they'd taken him was more than I could tell. Well, something strange had happened there, but just what I did not know. John believed a miracle, but I just turned to go. Circumstance and speculation couldn't lift me very high, 'cause I've seen them crucify him, then I saw him die. Back inside the house again, the guilt and anguish came. Everything I'd promised him just added to my shame. When at last it came to choices, I denied I knew his name. Even if he were alive, it wouldn't be the same. But suddenly the air was filled with strange and sweet perfume. Light came in from everywhere, drove shadows from the room. And Jesus stood before me with his arms held open wide. And I fell down on my knees and just clung to him and cried. He raised me to my feet as I looked into his eyes. Love was shining out from him like sunlight from the skies. Guilt and my confusion disappeared in sweet release. And every fear I'd ever had just melted into peace. He's alive, he's alive, he's alive, and I'm forgiven. Heaven's gates are open wide. He's alive, he's alive, he's alive, and I'm forgiven. Heaven's gates are open wide. He's alive, he's alive, he's alive, and I'm forgiven. Heaven's gates are open wide. He's alive, he's alive, he's alive. The hope of Easter, Jesus is alive.